All right, everybody, welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we're going to recap week 3 of the NFL season. It was a fun week, a lot of high scoring games. I think the morale's back up over here. We got some fantasy wins. Stores isn't here with us today, and he took an L in fantasy, so I think that might be partially the reason why. But how are you, Shane?
Yeah, I'm doing good. It was definitely a fun weekend of football. Um, I somehow pulled out a miraculous win. Shout out to my boys, Mike Evans and AJ Brown. But yeah, no, that's why Stores isn't here. He took a big L and now he's butthurt and he's crying. But that's just what Stores does. You guys will get used to it. That's just the kid. But yeah, let's get into our takeaways.
Yeah, you'll get used to it with the Chargers. But
Yeah,
I'm sure he'll miss a few episodes because of them. And I got to wear my Mahomes jersey because he won me my week in fantasy. And we'll get into these games because there's a lot of games to talk about. We'll talk about the Giants going into San Fran on Thursday night. The Niners won 30-12, and I feel like the Niners kind of just proved that they're the team to beat in the NFL right now. They look like just a bowling ball that no one's gonna stop. I genuinely don't know how you can stop this team on offense or defense. It looks like they're just gonna run through everyone.
yeah, and I mean, we saw with one of the main weapons out, someone stepped up, and that was Debo this week. Debo's looked really good so far, and I know I especially was down on him coming into this year for fantasy, but I guess I've been wrong because he's looked awesome. And then with no Ayuk, he was amazing, and so was Kittle. Kittle looked great too, especially for tight ends.
Yep. Kittle definitely stepped up, and Debo is just ridiculous. I mean, if you got Debo at this point, he's almost like a league winner territory if he can stay healthy. There was a little injury scare there. And on the Giants side of things, man, it's a mess. Like Brian Dable needs to call plays. He probably needs to take that away from Kafka. There's a lot of things that need to be changed in New York. It's pretty rough. Darren Waller is really the only player you can play, and even he is unreliable because this team's just so inconsistent on offense. I can't believe how bad it is. Like, I truly can't believe it.
Yeah, that was especially for me personally as a Darren Waller manager. It was a pretty painful game. I mean, he had 7 targets. That was you'd love to see that out of your tight end. And he only brought in 3 of those for only 20 yards. Granted, he should have had at least 2 more catches for 20 plus yards. But yeah, it was bad. Granted, the Giants have had a tough schedule these first 3 weeks. I'm excited to see them against a not so great matchup. Next week, of course, Jamal Adams is back, so that kind of sucks for this for them against the Seahawks. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. Hopefully, the Seahawks are definitely an easier matchup for them. So I'm really hoping to see guys like not even just Darren Waller, but one of the wide receivers. Wan'Dale Robinson. He was limited, but he was looking very relevant early on. So I'm excited to see a healthy full go Wandale this year.
Yeah, he was taking pretty much all of Paris Campbell's snaps in his first game. So I definitely see him taking over that slot role and becoming a pretty prominent option in fantasy. So I do like picking up Wandale this week. I feel like it's pretty early, but you can I feel like he'll be a good flex option this year.
He's definitely worth the hold.
And we didn't do a goof of the week this week, but Darren Waller and Daniel Jones were definitely candidates because they had some drops and just missed plays that were just comical. I know it was against the Niners, but yeah, the Giants are a mess, and it's a big surprise, really.
They're definitely in contention for Goof of the Week, but as we go through, I'm sure we'll find someone that was truly
Yeah,
no one. We'll find someone that was the goof. Those two are definitely worth mentioning as goofs of the weeks, but I don't think. Hmm, yeah, they're definitely worth mentioning. But there's gonna be someone out there that when we get to them that is definitely the goof.
Yeah, we'll think of them. But is there anything else on this game you want to mention? I feel like moving forward, it's pretty clear. Like all the Niners options you have to start because they're just so good. It's kind of scary because it's volatile and who's going to score for them, but they're
Yep.
all just so good.
Yep.
All right. We'll get on to the next game, which was a really, really fun game for me. The Browns are just an awesome team. The defense is a top defense. It's one of the bigger surprises in the NFL. And the Browns couldn't even run the ball, and Watson really impressed passing the ball. He kind of is the reason they won the game is because he kind of took over passing wise. Amari Cooper and this beast pictured Myles Garrett kind of took this game over. The 3 stars for Cleveland really took over in the absence of Nick Chubb. So you love to see that. I didn't think they would just completely blow out the Titans like that. Derrick Henry had 17 snaps in this game. That's unheard of. He was made irrelevant. So shout out to the Browns defense because they are nasty at home, man.
They're looking like one of the top defenses in the league. And just looking at what the Titans did, they had only two guys out of everyone. They only had two guys that ran the ball for a total of 15 carries, 11 for Derrick Henry and 4 for Tajay Spears. I get that's good defense, but how are you only getting one of the best running backs in the league 11 carries? That just can't happen.
Terrible. And I think Treylon Burks only had one catch. DeAndre Hopkins couldn't get going. The Browns secondary is awesome. So it's hard. Like there's an excuse there, but yeah, it's scary moving forward. Like for me personally, Treylon Burks, I don't know if I can start him ever again in fantasy like this year because like knowing the Titans can drop a 3-point game, like their offense is that bad, and it's kind of a surprise to people. And
yeah, they can definitely put up a dud week with a guy like Ryan Tannehill under center for sure.
Yep. And on the Brown side of things, you love to see Elijah Moore leading the team in targets. It's pretty crazy. They drew up some fun plays for him. He actually would have had more points if the worst play in NFL history didn't happen on his behalf, where Deshaun Watson just threw it 20 yards backwards and Elijah Moore happened to catch it. But
that was weird. Amari Cooper looks awesome through 3 weeks. He should have had an absolute monster game. He would have had that long touchdown that they called out for some reason that wasn't out. So that was strange. But yeah, Amari Cooper looks great. Jerome Ford, he got saved by a couple of touchdowns because he had 10 carries for 18 yards, and then he had 2 targets for 33 yards. But the rushing, granted, going into this game, we knew Jerome Ford was going to struggle on the ground because this Titans rush defense is great. Jerome Ford, if you did spend all that fab on him or you did get him, you were bailed out by the 2 touchdowns. So going forward, it's going to depend on his matchup for sure.
Yeah, it was a tough matchup, and I actually was surprised that Hunt had, I think it was 7 touches. That's probably more than I expected for him being signed midweek.
Yep.
But yeah, Jerome Ford could be a trade high candidate too, with those 2 touchdowns kind of saving him. But the Titans defense is really good, so it is hard to gauge. Anything else you want to say on this one?
Deshaun Watson had definitely looked good. He's definitely worth mentioning. He finally looked good, somewhat worth. I wouldn't say he's still worth that big contract, but he looked what they signed him to be. So that was definitely, if you roster him in fantasy, that was definitely a relief for sure.
Yeah, there were a lot of people asking me this week if they should cut Deshaun Watson. I just think it's too early because he has the rushing upside. They lost Nick Chubb, so they're going to kind of change their offense to pass more and for him to run more. And we saw this week, like he really does have upside if he can have if he can click with the offense and have a good week. He's a good fantasy option. So don't jump ship on him just yet. We'll get on to the next game. The Patriots going to New York and beat the Jets 15-10. It was as gross of a game as everyone expected, really. The season's over for the Jets with no quarterback change, unfortunately. So that's unfortunate. Like I benched Garrett Wilson for Jarrett Jeudy in a league, and it's just crazy to even think that I did that. But it ended up being the right choice because this Jets offense is just anemic. Breece Hall is like, he's great. He had, I think, 18 carries, but he can't do anything because it's just such a mess, and the defense can just key in on this run game. So the Jets are a mess, man. I think the season's over, and the Patriots didn't look too much better. It was just, just defense and just a Bill Belichick performance.
Yeah, and the Jets have had probably one of the hardest schedules through these first 3 weeks, and you're probably thinking, oh, it's got to get easier. Well, they get the Chiefs next week. That's probably going to be a blowout. It's going to be a negative game script. Honestly, if you have Garrett Wilson, depending on your other options, for the most part, you kind of have to play him and just pray for a long touchdown like he did against the Cowboys this week. He didn't kill you with 9.8 points, but it's definitely underwhelming for sure. And I mean, the rest of the pass catchers, you can't touch. And Breece Hall, if you have him, you still gotta. He's getting the volume. It's just this was an ugly game, weather-wise, defense-wise. I think he's gonna be good, but this game was just tough, and the over/under with it being so low, we knew it was gonna be that. It was just a gross game all around.
Yeah, gross game all around, and I don't think there's really much to take away. Moving forward, you kind of just hope that all these fantasy options do better because you kind of have to start people like Ramondre. So we'll move on to the next game, which we'll probably talk about here just for a little second. The ass beating of the week, like I predicted jokingly last week. The Broncos lose to the Dolphins in Miami 70-20. Man, that was rough. I shouldn't be surprised, but the Broncos defense was pathetic. And like I really have been saying all off season, Tua is really one of the best point guards in the league, and that NFL offense is in one of the just better rhythms and chemistries, and just it's just on time. The offense is really clicking right now on top of the NFL. It's fun to watch. It's literally legendary stuff that we've really never seen before. So Tyreek Hill, Tua, hats off. These guys are absolute freaks. Raheem Mostert, like that's 3 MVP candidates right there that I just said on the same team. It's pretty unreal what they're doing. Mike McDaniel is incredible. I think the Dolphins had a first down on every single play or a touchdown on every play. Like it was just pathetic by the Broncos. It just a murder on TV.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on it because it feels like ever since this game ended, it's all I've heard about.
Yep.
I get it. You know, it's historical. It was crazy. It was fun in the moment, but it feels like it's all I've heard. And moving forward, if you have Devon A-Chain, personally, I would say hold him or sell him like high as you possibly can. See if someone will bite on that 51 point fantasy performance. But obviously, the rest of if you have a Dolphin, you're ecstatic. It sucks. Jalen Waddle wasn't healthy to get a piece of that pie. But then on the Broncos side of the ball, Courtland Sutton, other than his 2 fumbles, I think he's looked really solid. And through 3 weeks now, I would definitely say he's outperformed his ADP, and he's a nice bench wide receiver to have to be able to toss him your flex, especially come bye weeks that start in a couple weeks. He's looked good. And Judy's coming back into the swing of things. So it was a gross game, but looking at it fantasy wise, Judy and Sutton look good. And then Javonte is still you can tell he's still slowly getting worked into things. And obviously this game was just gross, but not much else to say, I guess.
And Mims is a fun option. It sucks that the volume just really isn't there. He has to take all of Brandon Johnson's snaps. I don't know why they're not letting Mims start, because he's definitely a top receiver on the Broncos. It's clear. And I was going to ask you, how much, like what percent of your fab would you use on A-Chain if you were in like a 12-team league, especially, where he's more valuable?
I think it's hard because you have a guy like Jerome Ford who got pushed into a starting role, and then you look at Devon A-Chain and just what he did. Being the fact that he's still a backup running back, and they have Jeff Wilson coming back in probably 2 weeks. Personally, I wouldn't put that much. I would maybe put 15 to 20% of my fab. He's definitely worth, if there was an injury to this injury-prone Raheem Mostert, like we've seen in the past, or if Jeff Wilson is able to come back, yeah, this dude's going to be electric. But for now, Raheem Mostert looks totally healthy. Jeff Wilson coming back soon. I wouldn't be putting, the 60 to 80 plus percent that people were putting on Jerome Ford.
I personally would probably put a decent amount of money on it, just because I like throwing a shot at that. Like even if he splits, that offense could be so electric. Like we saw that he could just be an outlier in fantasy for sure.
Definitely.
But it's a fun thing to see. Like a Waddle wasn't even playing. This team is just ridiculous. We'll get on to the next game. The Colts go into Baltimore and beat the Ravens 22-19. That's some Minshew magic right there, if I've ever seen it. Not much to take away on the Ravens end. I feel like it's kind of just the same old Ravens. Lamar just kind of had to do everything. They definitely didn't feature Mark Andrews enough. That was a big reason for this loss. Zay Flowers is good as always, but yeah, just kind of rough for the Ravens that they couldn't come away with this win. You don't like to see that.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 things I was going to mention on the Ravens side of the ball. It's that Mark Andrews only getting 5 targets. I mean, that's probably why you lost. Seriously, that's ridiculous that he's only getting 5 targets. And then on the flip side, Zay Flowers getting 10 targets. If you got him in those later rounds, I mean, you're loving Zay Flowers. Me personally, I got him and I'm loving it. He's a great flex to have. I can't wait to see him get in the end zone, because if he had a touchdown on top of what he's been doing, it's going to be a massive week. And then, man, Zach Moss,
yep.
he is looking, not only, I mean, there's two things: the volume and the efficiency. He's getting crazy volume. He had 30 carries,
30 carries is crazy.
and 3 targets and 122 yards on the ground. Like that is this dude's killing it. He had a crazy receiving. Was it a receiving? Yeah, it was a crazy receiving touchdown. He had to do it all over him. I can't believe it was a great ball. I can't believe he brought it in. That Zach Moss looks awesome. Another guy I would say sell high on, because it looks like with the sort of transactions the Colts have done with releasing Deion Jackson, I would say there's a good chance Jonathan Taylor is back in 2 weeks. He's granted, I get Zach Moss would be great to have, as a handcuff, but if Jonathan Taylor comes back, he's going to be somewhat irrelevant. So definitely try to sell high on Zach Moss if you can.
And maybe try to trade for Jonathan Taylor, seeing what Zach Moss can do, knowing how good Jonathan Taylor is. With Anthony Richardson back, I think Jonathan Taylor could be a league winner, really.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Anthony Richardson, because I feel like people are kind of knocking on Jonathan Taylor's value because of Anthony Richardson, but we saw Zach Moss do this with Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew as well, a backup. So I can't wait for Anthony Richardson to come back with a guy like Jonathan Taylor, to be able just to check it down to him. Oh, it's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson. I was saying earlier that you probably should start him in fantasy over just about anyone other than like the Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen's of the world. I feel like Anthony Richardson's just a fantasy lock at this point. Anyone else you want to mention in this game though? Michael Pittman. Oh, actually, one last thing. Josh Downs led the Colts in targets. You love to see that emergence. If Anthony Richardson and Josh Downs can have a good development, they could be a really good PPR option.
You know what sucks? Going into Sunday morning before it actually starts, I always look at guys on the waiver wire, like, who can I pick up now that's going to be a guy that people are going to be bidding on next week? And I was looking, we have Josh Downs, and I was looking at him. I was staring him down. It was between him and Devontae Parker. And for some stupid reason, I picked up Devontae Parker. So that sucks, because Josh Downs looks awesome. And with 12 targets, that'd be a great guy to have on your bench.
That is tough. I didn't see what Devontae Parker did, but that is
tough. He did 2 catches for 19 yards. So he'll be hitting the waiver wire tomorrow in our league, in case you're wondering.
That's tough. Wow. Missed opportunity there. But we'll go on to the next game. The Bills going to Washington and beat the Commanders 37-3. Kind of a coming back to life moment for the Commanders. I think they might have just come back down to earth after playing the Cardinals and Broncos, but yeah, that Bills defense was just flying around. Great offense, great defense, great special teams. It's the Bills are kind of showing that they're true Super Bowl contenders, and it's something that we kind of wanted to see after last year. They played kind of sloppy and careless at the end of the year, and it was kind of their demise in the end. But this is what you want to see from Josh Allen, just a confident, surgical way of football, and the Bills are really just firing on all cylinders. And Sam Howell threw some rough picks in this one, 4 bad picks. That's a little scary.
Yeah, he was egregious. I mean, that was a joke. I get that they're a good defense, but that you should be able to perform better than that. And it sucks, because Brian Robinson was looking so good through the first couple of weeks, and then he comes out and just only has 7 points. So that's unfortunate. I do still like Brian Robinson this year a lot. I personally am trying to get him as much as I can. On the other side of the ball, obviously Stephon Diggs looks great. Gabe Davis, I feel like he's a touchdown or disappoint type of guy. He had a great touchdown this week, so he had a good week. And James Cook, man, he looks so awesome.
Dalton Kincaid, a little scary. Only 2 catches is definitely not what you love to see.
I can't stand how similar Kincaid and Knox look, with just how they look and their numbers. They look the exact same. I'll think it's a Kincaid catch and it's a Knox catch. But yeah, Kincaid, that 2 targets, that's definitely not a great sight to see for sure.
Got to change. And yeah, I want to see more from Brian Robinson. I do think he's going to bounce back. I think that might be his worst performance, because I do think he's going to be a very consistent option. Anything else?
He had no targets.
Yeah, this game is just a
throw it away. Yeah,
one to forget hopefully for the Commanders. Hopefully they can bounce back. But we'll get on to a really, really fun game. The Falcons going to Detroit and lose to the Lions 20-6. The Lions kind of just played a really good all-around game on this one. They were big winners of the week for me. I feel like their defense really impressed me. They That front seven was crazy with Aiden Hutchinson getting to the quarterback, 7 sacks, and then they really limited the Falcons' run game, which is really hard to do. Great game by the Lions. Great game by Goff as usual. He's just so consistent. He had a good rushing touchdown, a beautiful dime to this man right here. Sam Laporta, who's going to be a really fun option. I hope you guys got him in fantasy because he's like a must start moving forward at tight end. He's like a top 5 tight end option in fantasy. That's really fun. Love to see that from the Lions. Unfortunate for the Falcons, kind of just a game that you want to forget on a road game.
Well, a couple things. First of all, Jahmyr Gibbs, I get he's still young, but I would say he's been pretty disappointing in both drafts, where he's drafted in real life and where he was drafted in fantasy football. He's definitely been disappointing. I get they were kind of starting out slow, working him up into more volume, but this was the game against the Falcons for him to get 10 targets. He had 9 week 2. This was the game for him to get 10 targets, and he got the carries. He was okay at 80 yards on the ground, but the targets and no touchdowns. That was very disappointing. Only 1 catch for 2 yards. That hurts for sure. I was looking forward to seeing him have a big week. And then the other side of the ball, Kyle Pitts,
Gibbs and Bijan both were kind of letdowns.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Bijan was as well. He only had 10 carries.
Mm-hmm.
But then Kyle Pitts with 9 targets. I mean, that's a positive sight for if you're one of the fools that fell for Kyle Pitts draft. But hey, if you drafted him, he didn't kill you this week. He's probably in the top quarter of performers in the tight end position, actually. And Jonnu Smith is right behind him. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah, for Kyle Pitts standards, that was a great game.
This was actually that's probably a Hall of Fame game for Kyle Pitts. Got it. But yeah, Bijan was definitely disappointing. He 6 targets, but yeah, he was disappointing, especially against this Lions defense. I was definitely expecting it to be higher scoring for sure. So that kind of sucks.
Yeah, and I definitely want to see more from Desmond Ridder, man. That guy's going to need to prove more as a passer for me to want him to be the future of that talented team.
He's not it. I said this back in June. He's a younger Marcus Mariota. I mean, that's all he is.
Yeah. I think they kind of knew that when they drafted him in the 3rd round. So it was kind of an interesting pick in its own right. Kind of wanted to see them get a more high upside guy in there. We'll get into the next game. A really fun game. The Saints go into Green Bay and blow a 17-0 lead. They lose 18-17. And all I'm going to say is cool ass Jordan Love just never feels pressure. He's just such a cool dude. He's just always so cool, calm, collected, never feeling pressure. Even when he's down 17-0, just nonchalantly moving down the field, making good and accurate passes down the sideline. Really like what I see from Jordan Love. He has some mannerisms of young Aaron Rodgers. It's pretty fun to watch. And then on the Saints aspect of things, hopefully Derek Carr is okay. It looks like he's not going to have a too lengthy of an injury. And Olave is insane. One of the better receivers in the NFL. He is just incredible.
I'm so disappointed I wasn't able to get Olave in our league. Man, I love that dude going into during draft season. But yeah, for the Packers, it was a really gross first 2.5 quarters. But Jordan Love threw the ball 44 times. With a quarterback throwing it that much, and with how well he's been throwing it, granted, I know he didn't throw it that well in this game. With how well, in general, he's been throwing it, I want weapons on this offense.
You mentioning that, I really, really want to target Christian Watson with him coming back. I'm really excited for him, and I'm so excited for him in this offense.
That's what I was gonna say. With Christian Watson coming back, and Jordan Love's already been this good. I mean, he's gonna take a step up, and Christian Watson's gonna step into a amazing wide receiver 1 role, and then you add in. Granted, I thought Aaron Jones was going to play last week. He was limited Thursday, limited Friday, and then just didn't play. I think it was a good thing. I think it was smart of them because they're on a short week this week. They played Thursday. LaFleur came out and said he would have practiced today had they practiced. So it sounds like they're saving him for Thursday. You get Aaron Jones in there. I mean, this offense is looking really good with the way Jordan Love is playing. Romeo Doubs, if you were able to scoop him up off the waiver wire or draft him late, he's paid off for sure.
And Jaden Reed looks like a star. He's electric. He's a really fast player.
And then Luke Musgrave, he put up, legendary tight end numbers. If we're talking 2023 tight ends, he put up he has 6 catches for 49 yards. Like that was probably, if I had to guess, a top 5 tight end this week.
Yeah, for a rookie, that's super solid.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want on this game?
AJ Dillon is terrible.
Oh, terrible.
Terrible. Like they need Aaron Jones, which I love. I truly love to see it selfishly because I have Aaron Jones. They need that dude. He looks so good week 1. So yeah, I can't wait to see Aaron Jones slide on over to the bench and AJ Dillon slide on over to the bench and have Aaron Jones hop back in healthy.
Yeah, me and Shane both confidently hit the under on AJ Dillon's line. We didn't even look at what the line was. We just hit the under because he's just not that talented of a player, unfortunately.
And it hit. It hit.
Yeah, definitely. They probably should have been looking for Cam Akers as well. But yeah, I'm really excited for Aaron Jones and Christian Watson to get back. The Packers are a fun team to watch, and the Saints will be fine. You got Jameis Winston playing against the Bucks next week, so that could be interesting.
He is going to air it out to Chris Olave.
Yeah, it'll be pretty funny. It'll be a pretty comical one, actually.
Oh wait, I have a question. Is Marshawn Lattimore still on the Saints?
Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, that'll be a good battle. We'll get on to the next game. The Texans will play the Jaguars. Or sorry, the Texans beat the Jaguars 37-17. And my biggest takeaway is, wow, the Texans' future is very, very bright, like insanely bright. And Stroud is awesome. He should get the Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's an absolute beast. Just looks so ready for the NFL right now. Like he looks like he's just a top half NFL quarterback already in his 3rd NFL game. So love to see it from them. The Jaguar side of things, it's really gross, really inconsistent. You hate to see that. You need to see Trevor in that offense firing on all cylinders more, because that's just kind of unacceptable for a team with that talent.
I mean, I truly can't believe how good this dude has looked. I think he has no picks and almost 1,000 yards. He has almost 1,000 yards through 3 games. This dude is looking unbelievable.
He's making Tank Dell and Nico Collins really good options too.
And even Robert Wood. It was definitely a down week for Robert Woods. But that's because it was a Tank Dell week. Maybe we're sort of seeing a many tier below 49ers type of thing, where it's like they have a lot of good options and only 1, maybe 2 a week are going to be relevant for fantasy. The other 1 or 2 might disappoint. But Tank Dell, man, that dude is fast as hell. And with how amazing Stroud has been playing, that Tank Dell might be the steal of the draft.
Yeah,
for fantasy, not real, for fantasy.
I just realized that I totally forgot to say who won picks this week. It was Josh. So we'll keep it quiet.
Yeah.
But Tank Dell in fantasy, I picked him up in one of my leagues right before the games, and I'm so happy about it, because that guy could be a league winner if that connection keeps going. I remember CJ Stroud asked for Tank Dell specifically after he was drafted, so it's a little fun connection they have going.
And then, I mean, with the Jaguars, it was obviously disappointing, a weird game, but I mean, you're not going to not play Ridley, Ingram, ETN. You're not going to play them, but it's definitely disappointing.
Yeah, I think ETN will be just fine moving forward. He's going to be a big volume player.
Yeah, he's looked amazing through these first 3 weeks.
Yeah, and Dameon Pierce, he kind of convinced me back into him in this game. I can see the vision where I could see Dameon Pierce having a good bounce back and end of the season with the Texans maybe being more competitive.
Yeah, the 3 targets, for 28 yards, that's definitely a nice buffer. And then 14 carries, I love that volume, and getting in the end zone helps, obviously. So yeah, he definitely had a really good bounce back week this week.
Yep, love what you saw from the Texans. We'll get on to the next one. The Chargers go into the Minnesota and beat the Vikings 28-24. And
thank goodness Josh isn't here for this.
Oh yeah, we'll save you some rants on this one, but Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen kind of just put this game on their shoulders and just did the thing themselves. It was pretty impressive. Keenan Allen, 20 targets. I don't know his exact stats, but he had that passing touchdown. Justin Herbert was incredible, and unfortunately Mike Williams went down with a season-ending injury, but he was awesome too.
Not much else to say about the wideouts. The only thing, it sucks with Mike Will out for season, but Quentin Johnson is going to slide into a very relevant role. It's still early in the season. He's probably gonna come onto the scene hard soon here. Also, Joshua Kelly sucks. It's hard because like you see all these high projections for him when he's a starting guy. So like you want to play him, but that dude sucks. He's a backup running back for a reason, clearly. So don't keep playing Joshua Kelly while Eckler's out.
Oh, I'll be dropping him in every league I have. I made the mistake of starting him 2 weeks in a row. I'm never rostering that man ever again in my entire life. The Chargers shouldn't roster him either. They should probably cut him too because I'm pissed.
And talking about running backs on the other side of the ball for the Vikings, I have Alexander Madison. It's definitely a roller coaster of emotions. That's how it's been these first 3 weeks with him. He looked, as I was watching the game, he actually looked really good. He had a couple dumb, especially one specific drive that when they're down on inside the 5-yard line that he did some couple dumb things, but he actually looked really good to me. And his volume, with a guy getting that kind of volume, he had 20 carries and 7 targets. I don't think, you have Cam Akers coming in. He'll probably play next week. I don't think they would be giving Alexander Madison this kind of volume if they're not going to have him still be the lead back. It's going to come down a little bit with Cam Akers, but Cam Akers obviously also got traded for a reason. He looked atrocious in week 1. We'll see how they use him, how he does with the Vikings, but I do think that there's good hope for Alexander Madison still being a low end RB2 for fantasy. He didn't even get in the end zone, and he still had 17 fantasy points. If he gets in the end zone, I mean, he's going to be pretty safe. Without the end zone, it's definitely scary, but with the volume he's getting, it's looking up for sure.
Yeah, I think the ball security for Alexander Madison would be like the one thing that would just be scaring me off and kind of being the one thing that gives Cam Akers the opportunity. And it's a completely fresh slate for Cam Akers. So this will go one of two ways. He's either going to rejuvenate his career with Kevin O'Connell and be awesome for them, or he's just going to be completely irrelevant and cut in a few weeks. I feel like there's no in between. So it's going to be interesting to see. It kind of just depends on, just their performances, that Alexander Madison's bounce back from his ball security, and how Cam Akers kind of just takes this new opportunity. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I really don't know how it is going to play out.
It's going to be a weird week because I think it's going to come down to how between Ty Chandler and Cam Akers. I think it ultimately will come down to those two. So we'll see. I mean, personally, I hope Ty Chandler obliterates him in practice so he can be behind him, but we'll see. I'm very interested to see what they do with him in week 4. Madison and Akers.
And then I wanted to say this to Stores. I thought it was going to be on here, but Herbert played a damn near perfect game. The defense stepped they stepped up when they needed to. Like the ball was bouncing their way pretty much the whole game, and the team still barely squeaked out a win. And because Staley was still making kind of dumb decisions, so I'm still a little scared. I feel like the Chargers ceiling is still, I don't know, there's something's not clicking with this team. It's kind of just I can't even really put my finger on it, but something's wrong with the Chargers. They're playing pretty good football and they're barely winning games. So I don't know.
For fantasy reasons though, Keenan Allen, 20 targets, holy crap. And it's a shame Justin Herbert's not even the best quarterback on his team. You got Keenan Allen out here with a 100, a perfect QBR.
Yeah, the Jets should maybe call for Keenan Allen. But with that, we'll get into the next game. The Panthers going to Seattle, and they were competitive with Andy Dalton, but the Seahawks ultimately win 37-27. It was a fun little rejuvenation game for Andy Dalton and Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen was absolutely eating, but it wasn't enough. The Seahawks kind of just did their thing nonchalantly. It seems like the Seahawks can kind of just are the team in the NFL that just gets a touchdown at will when they need to, when things are on the line. DK Metcalf or Lockett will make a play. Geno's been really clutch. Kenneth Walker has been one of the better running backs in the NFL. It's an awesome story how good he's been doing. And Charbonnet was even just awesome behind him. So this Seahawks team is just clicking on all cylinders, and they're playing a really good all-around game of football. And one thing I'll say as a big Bryce Young fan, it is a little scary that the Panthers are they were really, really struggling offensively, and then they plug Andy Dalton in, and Andy Dalton makes this offense like a pretty good passing offense. And they were,
They put up 27 points with Andy Dalton.
yeah. So I don't know. I just think this Panthers team has some learning curves, and they're probably a year out.
Definitely. But I did not expect Bryce Young to look this bad. I knew coming into this as a Miles Sanders manager, this was going to be a positive with Andy Dalton under center, and it was. Miles Sanders only 9 carries. That was very strange. But if you look into it, they threw the ball 58 times. That's why they hardly ran the ball. The next leading rusher was Andy Dalton with 2 rushes, and Miles Sanders with 9 targets. And Adam Thielen, man, that 14 targets. He's looked awesome these last couple of weeks.
He's turning back the clock, and he's playing in Minnesota next week. So I think he's going to have another good week. He's got
That's gonna be fun to watch.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm not really worried about the Vikings secondary either.
Not at all.
But yeah, like DJ Chark was awesome. Chark had a great touchdown catch. You love to see him get back healthy. And I'll be honest, Jonathan Mingo is kind of mid. He really just kind of walks around out there, like he jogs around. He doesn't really put in the effort. Want to see more from Jonathan Mingo. Don't want him to be a bust. Want to see him have a better connection with Bryce Young moving forward. But yeah, just kind of interesting outside of Adam Thielen and DJ Chark for the Panthers. Miles Sanders could be good, but yeah, what are your thoughts on the Seahawks receivers? Especially obviously Lockett, DK are insane, but
yeah, I mean, they're still great. They're awesome. The only other thing I want to add is I think Jason has been extremely disappointing. It's weird how little they're using him. He only had 3 targets this week, 1 catch for 10 yards. I don't know if it's the wrist playing a part. If it is, then get the man the surgery and get him healthy. I don't know. It's weird. So that's definitely been disappointing for sure.
All right, we'll get on to the next one. It's an interesting one. The Cowboys go into Arizona and lose to the Cardinals 28-16. The weirder game of the year, probably. Jonathan Gannon gets my respect, though. Dude may be a weirdo, but he's definitely a pretty good coach. Like, he has these Cardinals playing hard for him. They are playing tough. They're playing way better than they should be, probably. So respect on the Cardinals end. Respect to Josh Dobbs is playing. Rondell Moore making electric plays. James Conner's looking just like a old-fashioned badass running back. Hollywood Brown was making plays on this defense. Stephon Gilmore was kind of looking like burnt toast, like he should probably retire out there. The Cowboys defense was looking all out of sorts without Trayvon Diggs. So this was an interesting one. And oh my God, Dak was rough, man. Like he was just like, he literally had multiple opportunities to come back and he was getting outplayed by the Cardinals, man.
I mean, yeah, all I was gonna say was, dude, Dak, that dude sucks. That guy is just not. I don't know. I feel like I've been on lower on Dak as of late than usual, than most. I think maybe it's just on a overall good team, so it kind of boosts him up. That dude is no good. CeeDee Lamb, CeeDee Lamb, you've got to be featuring CeeDee Lamb more like that if you want to win. So that, I mean, overall, it was just disappointing. Only ups, positive was Tony Pollard. No matter what, I guess that dude's just going to be an RB1. He looks awesome through these first 3 weeks. Yeah. I mean, the Cardinals, I don't know. I think it's Marquise Brown and James Conner, and that's it.
And you mentioned like CeeDee Lamb was like splitting targets with Brandon Cooks and Michael Gallup. That's unacceptable. He needs to be getting the majority of targets in that offense. As we've seen the first few weeks of the season, he's too dynamic not to.
And there were 4 guys with 7 targets: Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, and Jake Ferguson. That's ridiculous.
That's just like Mike McCarthy doing some weird thing where he just wants everything to be even. That doesn't even make sense, man. I don't like that. But nothing really else to take away on this one. You're kind of starting the same options. Nothing really changes. We'll go on to the next game. The Bears go into Kansas City, lose 41-10. Not much to say on this one other than good for Travis Kelce in scoring in front of his new girlfriend, Taylor Swift. Respect. Good for Travis. But yeah, just 41-10. It's kind of all the analysis you need. You're starting Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. Isaiah Pacheco is an absolute baller. You got to start him. And the Chiefs receivers are kind of a mess.
What do you do with Khalil Herbert? I feel like he had a lot of hype coming into the season. The dude got he had 7 carries. Roshan Johnson had more with 8. What do you do with Khalil Herbert? Do you drop him?
I think at this point you can just drop Khalil Herbert because Roshan Johnson's splitting with him, and I don't think either of them are startable. So if they're splitting and it's just so bad, dude.
Like I'd rather have, if you're talking on the waiver this week, I'd drop Khalil Herbert for Devon A-Chain. Who else is I would drop Khalil Herbert for Josh Downs, who we mentioned earlier, wide receiver for the Colts. I wouldn't necessarily just drop him out of the blue for no reason, but if you're picking someone up, like a couple guys like those two, yeah, I'd be fine dropping him because this Bears team is a joke.
Even someone like Henry Miller, but yeah, just because, yeah, like you said, the Bears team isn't going to have any opportunities for these running backs. It's bad. And DJ Moore, you can start because he's probably going to get like 1 touchdown a week just in garbage time, like he did this week. But it's just rough. And Justin Fields probably shouldn't be an NFL quarterback, unfortunately.
I feel bad for DJ Moore, man.
Yep, coming from Carolina and Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, and yeah, it's been rough for his career. He's never had a quarterback.
Yeah.
We'll get on to the Sunday night game. The Steelers go into Vegas and win 23-18. It was a pretty good all-around win for the Steelers. Their pass rush is just incredible. TJ Watt and Highsmith or something else. Their defensive line's awesome. Mika Fitzpatrick's a beast. The offense played better. George Pickens is an absolute beast. Pat Freiermuth had a good touchdown. So you like to see like a good all-around just good bounce back win from the Steelers. And on the Raiders' side of things, it might be time to blow it up. That was really bad. I feel like they had an opportunity to win that game. Jimmy G was throwing picks. Devontae Adams had one of the better games an NFL receiver could have ever, and you can't win. So it's just the Raiders are a mess. You might want to trade Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I mean Kenny Pickett, he looked great this week. He needed to, quite frankly, against a bad defense like the Raiders, and he came out and he looked awesome. Najee Harris, the volume made me want to stay. It gave me hope still for Najee Harris, with he still had 19 carries to Jalen Warren's 8 carries. And he got out targeted 4-1. But the carries are there. You're just going to get the 60 to 80 yards from him, and you got to pray he gets in the end zone. He just hasn't yet.
Yeah, that's kind of what Najee is at this point. Unfortunately, you wish you could get more in the receiving game. It's unfortunate. He did look good on the ground.
Do you think the Raiders are aware that they have a first-round tight end in Michael Mayer? Do you think they know that he's on their team?
Yeah, he had that touchdown, but it was like a garbage time touchdown. And other than that, they don't target him. I don't know why you start Austin.
It was a 2-point conversion.
Oh, yeah, it was a 2-point conversion. I got excited for it because I like these tight ends. I thought it was a touchdown, but yeah, just a 2-point conversion. But yeah, like I don't know why they wouldn't just start him and just feed him, because he's like literally like just as talented as Waller was coming out.
Michael Mayer, 0 catches on 1 target.
Oh, and so he had the catch was the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, and then he had a catch for the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, I got all excited for that because I love these rookie tight ends, but that's unfortunate. You need to target him more. This Raiders team, I don't know what Josh McDaniels is doing, but I think he's proven his whole career that he's not a head coach. He proved it in Denver when he was a head coach. He's just not a head coach, and he needs to be fired. We'll get on to the first of the 2 Monday night games. The Eagles going to Tampa and beat the Buccaneers pretty handily. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans have a pretty good game, but just not enough to beat this all-around Eagles team that's just so good running the ball, nonchalantly throwing to A.J. Brown every single play of the game, and he looked really good. So, yeah, just not really much to take away in this one either, because the Buccaneers receiving options did look good in a loss, which is good. Rashad White was a struggle, but he's going against the best defensive line ever. I guess that's probably the takeaway, is this Eagles defensive line is it's just words that I can't say in this podcast. It's just so good. Like
if your running back is going against them, I don't care who you play over the running back, just bench him. It's not going to end well.
And maybe even quarterback, because he's going to be seeing ghosts most of the game too.
And is DeAndre Swift the running back 1 for this backfield? He had 16 carries for 130 yards and then only 1 catch for 8 yards. But 130 yards, that's back-to-back massive weeks for this dude.
Yeah, he's running wild. He's just running really, really hard and efficient. He's getting, it seems like, 10 yards every time he touches it. What was Gainwell's carries.
Gainwell only had 2 less carries. He had 14 carries for only 43 yards, though. That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. It seemed like they did split. But yeah, you need to see. I mean, obviously Swift is kind of just earning it right now. Like it seems like they're going to take a running back by committee approach, and whoever's the hotter hand is going to get the more carries. And right now it's Swift.
Yeah, I mean, this was just painful. I may or may not have needed one more passing touchdown from Jalen Hurts to secure a big win in an underdog bet. Hey,
Yeah, if that was to AJ Brown, I probably would have got my bet too, sadly. But and now both these teams, I feel like the takeaway is somewhat positive. I feel like Baker didn't look bad or anything. The Eagles defense is just incredible.
well, and Mike Evans, he's last year he was very, very streaky, more so on the downside, pretty disappointing. Through 3 weeks, Mike Evans has been a wide receiver one. He's looked awesome. He's getting the targets, 10 targets, 8 targets, 10 targets. He's the clear wide receiver one. Baker loves him. So that's definitely a plus. And then other than that, I mean, Rachaad White, I still love Rachaad White. You get plenty of volume. It was the Eagles defense, not much else you could do.
Yeah, Mike Evans really just does look good out there. Like he looks like he's in his prime still. He doesn't look like he's aging at all. And you were mentioning earlier, like he's going up against Marshawn Lattimore next week. That's a legendary just matchup and legendary kind of rivalry.
Marshawn Lattimore has his number too. That's the problem.
but Mike Evans, there's some games that he gets the better of him too. So it's going to be a fun battle. It's probably the two best teams in the NFC South right now. And we'll get on to the last game of the week. The Bengals hold on and beat the Rams on Monday Night Football, and Logan Wilson is an absolute beast. 2 picks, good linebacker out of Wyoming. Love to see that. Great defensive performance from Lou Anarumo's Bengals. And on the Rams aspect of things, Tutu Atwell is ridiculous. He is very electric as a runner after the catch and just as a route runner. His play was a touchdown, by the way. He did get a touchdown, but his run at the beginning on his end around, it was definitely a touchdown. I think his heels were above the out of bounds, but
yeah, that was weird. I wasn't watching the game at that time, at that point during the 2-2 touchdown or no touchdown. And then I got a notification from Sleeper that they ended up calling him inbound and it was a touchdown. And I went and looked and there was no touchdown.
Yeah, it was literally so close. Like half of his toes were in bounds and his toe, I don't even know how to explain it. Like his half of his foot was in bounds and half of it was out, but it was like an optical illusion. I genuinely think he was in bounds, but it was like really hard to tell. But yeah, either way, it was an electric run. He's an electric player, and he got his touchdown either way. And Puka Nacua just really reliable, but it just wasn't.
It was
the Bengals
a little bit of a come down to earth game for Puka, but he had still 12.2 fantasy points. You probably have him in your, depending on how many flexes in your flex or your second flex spot. That's a great performance for your flex guy.
And you love to see Jamar Chase absolutely bouncing back, showing that he is a alpha wide receiver one in fantasy that can win your week any given week.
And I said it last week. Oh wait, I think I did say it about Joe Burrow. I said you bench Joe Burrow until he proves otherwise, and tonight he was a bust yet again. I get he's dealing with the calf, but that's just more of a reason to not play him. So I'd be doing everything I can to not play Joe Burrow.
Yeah, my girlfriend listened to you. She benched Joe Burrow for Russ, and it worked out. She ended up winning, and you ended up being a beneficiary of Joe Burrow, and you ended up winning because you played against Joe Burrow. That's literally the reason you won, I think. But
yeah.
But yeah, Joe Burrow will be fine. T. Higgins looked a little bit rough out there. It seems like he kind of was having a little of a battle with Darion Kendrick, and Darion Kendrick was kind of getting in T. Higgins' head a little bit. But yeah, either way, the Bengals are up arrow. No one really expected him to win. And Joe Burrow definitely doesn't look 100% healthy, but they got the W.
Yep.
All right. And then Kyron Williams could have been better, but Matthew Stafford dumps it off to him so much. So you love to see that as well. But yeah, fun covering all these games. Thanks for joining, Shane. Tune into the NFL Seekers podcast on all platforms. We have a review and recap episodes up. So yeah, thanks for joining, Shane.
Yeah, that was fun.
All right. Have a good one, guys. Peace.
Peace.